Hello, welcome to the depot. This is the first day that all 17 of the pieces have arrived in the depot. So I want to take you on a tour through all of them and just say a few words about the events that they relate to. So each of the 17 pieces relate to one of the different events that we're doing throughout the year. Each of the events happening in one of Graz's 17 districts. Like for example, this piece here is related to Liebenau, and we did an event with Tai Shani where we did a reading. I'm not going to go into the different events now because there are separate videos related to that. But each of the different pieces of furniture in the depot relate to the locations that the events were taking in. In the case of Tai Shani's event, it was happening in a football stadium. And so I wanted to make a work that would pick up on some of the architectural features that were in the football stadium. I'm going to show you here. For example, you can see the numbers at the entrance to the let's say the ports, the gates in, and I picked up on those numbers, and I made this parawall, this dressing screen out of it. Or for example, we can look at the piece that's in front of me now, which is related to the work of, which is related to Waltendorf, which is one of the 17 districts, and it's an event where Bianca Baldi is going to be moving the Kunstverein to a plastic surgery clinic or a dermatology clinic, and again with this piece I was picking up on the different architectural elements that you could find at the location. You can see here the glass, the steel, the different elements. So this is, whereas this was a dressing screen, here we have a table, a reading table, a standing table. So all of the different elements that this table is composed of pick up on the different architectural features and spatial features of the environment around where the event is taking place. And the idea is really that all of these pieces of furniture together start to say something about the architecture of Graz, start to say something about the, let's say, the fabric, the texture of the city, the texture of the spaces where the events could take place. Here, for example, we have a table that I made relating to the Innerstadt, an event that Marcus Jusering is doing. He's creating a climate pavilion, and one of our events is taking place in there. So when I was developing this table, I looked at the different features of that particular square where he's working, and I picked up on the pillars which are around a column in the center of the square. There are these stone pillars, and so I measured their form and I made two of them in concrete that became the supports for this table. The piece behind me here is a chair. So what you'll notice is all of the different elements that I'm bringing here are all pieces of furniture: a table, a chair, a dressing screen, mirrors, vases, lamps. These are all sort of quasi-domestic pieces of furniture. This chair, for example, relates to Strassgänger, and an event by Damir Osko. We're going to be doing a film screening of his work in a kind of a semi-open space there. It'll be like an urban screening. And this is made out of, well, this is oak, and these are different other kinds of wood. But it picks up, the structure here picks up on a ventilation grid that was part of one of the buildings where we're going to be showing the film, and then the structure on the side here picks up on the features of one of the doors. So all of these elements together try to pick up these different these different textures, these different urban textures of the city. Behind me here is a lamp that I made related to an event that Dennis McNulty is going to be doing in Andritz. Andritz being a little bit further out. With that event, we decided that we wanted to make it into in the first instance, a bus tour. It was going to be a bus journey. It's now transformed. It's actually going to be a walking tour. But so when I was thinking about this piece, I wanted to make a lamp. And I wanted to pick up on different elements of a bus. So you get these sort of concave mirrors so that you can see, the bus driver can see what's happening behind him. And you get these poles that you can hang on to and stand on in buses. So it picks up on all these different elements. Here you see a mirror, or 3 mirrors actually. And these pick up on a market, the market that happens in Eggenberg. And this is an event where we move the Grazer Kunstverein to the market. Barry, the artist group Barry, are going to be doing that. And when I was thinking about how to pick up on some of the features from Eggenberg, I was really looking at the different parts of the market, and I was really inspired by these table horses that they have. I'll show you an image. Where you can put the market stalls on. Here you see these sort of table horses. So I wanted to make a mirror that would pick up on that. And you may be thinking, well, why a mirror, why a table, why a dressing screen, why lamps? When we were trying to conceive of what the depot was as an environment, I began or let's say I needed a way of thinking about it which could condense it down into one thing. So I started to think about it as a kind of a backstage. So it's a sort of a backstage for the project. It's an HQ, it's an information center, if you want to call it that. It's the heart of the project, but at the same time it's also a kind of a backstage. It's a place where things come out of and go on to move elsewhere. And I started to think about, well, what is in a kind of a backstage? Well, backstage you have these dressing rooms. So I started to look at images of theatre dressing rooms and trying to analyze, well, what are the different elements that make up a theatre dressing room? So I collected a lot of photographs of theatre dressing rooms, and what I saw was tables, mirrors, chairs, vases, dressing screens, and clothes racks. Those were the elements that make up a theatre dressing room. And that was why I chose this set of elements which were going to make up this space. So here we have this bench. It relates to Puntigam. There's a workshop which I'm organizing in Puntigam in which the Grazer Kunstverein moves to the space in between. The space that we found in Puntigam was a sort of a park in between a whole series of other buildings, and it was bounded by these sort of simple wooden constructions, and it had lamps that resembled this. So what you see are the picking up of a number of the architectural features that were there, and reworking them into a bench. The final piece in this room relates to the botanical gardens in Geedorf. This was the first, and I suppose the longest, of the temporary Kunstvereins that we're doing. It lasts the duration of the project, and we're collaborating with the botanical gardens. And visiting the gardens, I was very inspired by some of the very old sort of greenhouse boxes that they had there, where in fact I got, they allowed me to borrow this from there, and it's a mirror which has these lamps like you would get in a theatre dressing room, and then I designed a pattern based on various leaves that I saw there, that is then there's a sticker with that pattern on the back. So let's move through to the next room, and we'll talk about the rest of the pieces. In this room we have another 5 of the pieces of furniture. Here we have a dressing screen related to St. Leonard. There we're doing an event with Ameceto Lima and Beckett, and we're moving the Kunstverein to the kindergarten. There's a kindergarten there. So visiting the kindergarten here. What you see, or what I saw, was a lot of carpet. A lot of these climbing structures for children. The whole space was really full of them. And then there were blackboards, chalkboards for working on. So this is made out of this is slate, kind of original chalkboard, let's say, for drawing on. Then we have the one of these climbing things, and then this is a sort of Hessian carpet that we've stiffened with a special product so that it can stand up straight. Here we have a mirror and a lamp. A lot of lamps in these works. This is related to when we moved the Kunstverein to a bathing platform in Marientrust. There's a small lake there, and at the edge of the lake, Anna Paul did an event. She made a film there, and inspired by the location, inspired by the kinds of let's say floorboarding you get on these bathing structures, and these sorts of poles that you get that for tying things up or for making ropes so that people don't fall in the water. That's what inspired this, and then of course the reflection of the water. Next to that we have a piece over here which is related to when the Grazer Kunstverein moves to the forest. We're doing a work in Wetzelsdorf with Alma Heikkula, a Finnish artist, moving the Kunstverein to a forest. And this is actually a clothes rack. No clothes on it at the moment, but hopefully soon, as the project develops, we can have some more things hanging on it. And what I did was I welded together a simple, sort of A-frame structure from steel, and then I took a cast, a silicon cast of different branches, different pieces of non-burnt wood and burnt wood. So that's why you have the black charcoal parts and the parts that are not burnt. And I used a kind of a synthetic clay. So you cover the thing in clay, and then you enclose it, and then you wait for it to dry, and then you build it up in sections. So this was inspired by these kinds of impromptu structures, these impromptu children's shelters that I found when I was in the forests in the area. Behind that we have another mirror piece, or a light mirror piece. This relates to Giacomini and a structure that we found whereby there was a kind of a metal grid similar to this grid here, where people were putting posters on. So I wanted to create a mirror that you could put posters on using magnets or different ways of adding things. So you have this industrial rebar grid. It's normally used for reinforcing concrete. And then I've simply bent 4 of the pieces, and then they penetrate through the kind of mirror polished stainless steel in which the light bulbs are housed, and they're the elements that are actually fixing it onto the wall. So the 5th piece that's in this part of the room relates to an event that we did in Gusting with Fiston, where we moved the Kunstverein to an abandoned lift shaft. And this lift shaft had a wooden structure. It had brick walls, brick walls, which were plastered. But then it had this wooden structure with a kind of lattice on top. And the light, when I visited it, the light was really beautifully falling through and penetrating this into the space. You can kind of see it here. And so I wanted to create a table that in some way played with a similar lighting element. And all around this, of course, being a sort of abandoned space where not many people come, there are a lot of grasses and wildflowers, a lot of exposed rebar from the bits of concrete, industrial fences. So I wanted to kind of mirror some of these elements. And planted below here, we have some planters where there are wildflowers and grasses. And if there is enough light in here, which is by no means certain, they will start to grow as long as they are watered every couple of days. So hopefully in about a month we'll start to see some of the flowers growing. So let's move to the final part of the space, just back here. So in this part of the space we have two objects. This chair relates to St. Peter, and it's an event where we're moving the Grazia Kunstverein to Urwald with the artist Lucas Messner. And I hadn't managed to visit the site myself, but Lucas sent me a whole load of photographs and films that he had of the area, and going through sort of shot by shot, still by still, trying to understand what was in this Urwald. I found an image of this simple kind of diamond fence, which was a kind of boundary element defining the area. And then, of course, more than that, I found a lot of quite overgrown and abandoned plantation. And so I decided to use that to try to make this lounge chair so that you can sit here and you can read the books and listen to the audio pieces that are on the work which is next to it, which is another clothes rack, the second clothes rack you'll see. And this was this is from the event where we moved the Grazia Kunstverein to the library, to the Staatsbibliothek. It was actually one of the first events we did with Belinda Kasim Kaminski, and it's in Greece, if you don't know the Staatsbibliothek. And visiting there, what I found interesting, or what I wanted to see was, or picked up on, let's say, are these book return things on wheels, so you can wheel the books back. So I wanted to make a clothes rack that would also function as one of these book return trolleys, I suppose. So it's on wheels, you can move it, you can put books on it, you can hang your clothes, it has a light. Yeah. And let's move to the last two pieces at the back. So one of the places we moved the Grazia Kunstverein to was a billboard in Lent, which is quite central in the city. It was a work we did with Emma Wolf Haw, and this is the piece that I made in relation to that. It might not look much like a vase, but it is actually meant to be a vase. You can see that it has flowers. And what I was doing with this piece was I was trying to pick up on one of the columns that I saw in a car park there. In fact, this car park was the original site where we were going to do the event, but in the end the posters moved to a slightly different space, but I decided to continue with the original sculpture because I had started making it already. And so it's actually super heavy. It's probably a couple of 100 kilograms. Doesn't look like it. But it's also on wheels, so you can move it around. And it's a kind of an open column. It's half open on this side, and inside you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 light bulbs that all line up with the 5 holes that are on this side, which line up with the 5 holes that are on this side, where the vases are for the flowers. The second vase that I made, so if you remember, all of these objects are either a vase, a table, a chair, a clothes rack, a dressing screen, a lamp, or a mirror. So the second vase that's part of the collection is this one. And this I made for a work where we moved the Grazia Kunstverein to a Buschenschank with Fiona Hanelin in Ries. And so this Buschenschank's a little bit out of the city. It's quite rustic, let's say, in its form, in its architecture. And I wanted to try and pick up on that. I wanted to try and pick up on these simple rustic boards. I wanted to try and and pick up on this kind of like simple guttering. So this is actually a gutter where water would run into. There, you can fill it with water. There's a plug here so you can let the water out. And this is a cast, so the cast of the shape of this rain pipe guttering. And then here we have the boarding of the facades of the buildings there. And I put in these different heights of these rings so that you can hang or store flowers. Over time they've now dried out, which is also nice. There you see them dried. So there you have all 17 of the pieces of furniture are finally here in the depot. What you have really is a collection of all kinds of different aesthetic elements, really a palimpsest of grats layered upon each other in this tight, dense, small space of our depot.